My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm your first friend in Alaska. I'm also an associate real estate broker in South Central Alaska. And today we're going to be talking about this big bad bruising bears. That's right. We're going to be talking about the one of the topics that I get the most questions from, and that is, what are the bears like up here in Alaska? Are they something you should be worried about? And also kind of just talking about whether, just some tips you can do to make your odds of having a bad encounter with a bear a little bit less. Obviously, can't get it to zero because you're talking about a big wild animal, but we're going to do our best to give you your best practices if you would. Before we get started though, make sure you give this video 2 big thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff because that really does help the algorithm to decide to keep putting this content in front of people. So I guess pay it forward is what I'm saying, and let's go and jump into today's video. First off, I would say that bear attacks are absolutely no joke. It's very serious. I don't think a whole lot of people really appreciate just how strong a bear is. I know there was this big social media trend for a while. People were talking about, would you rather be in the forest with a bear or with a human, blah, blah, blah. Okay, debate aside, a bear will absolutely mess you up, okay? I don't think you fully appreciate what that kind of strength is like until you've actually even tried wrestling with a bigger dude or big brothers, big sisters, whatever. I think you don't fully appreciate just raw strength like that until you've gotten your butt absolutely kicked before. So I think it's really hard for us to really appreciate just how strong a bear is until you have seen these things up close and kind of heard the stories about them taking guns and just completely bending the iron and just putting their paws together, coming down on the bed of a truck and just cracking the bed of the truck from one side to the other. They're ridiculously strong, and bear attacks are really no joke is going to be the first thing. Second thing, I would say that we need to make a bit of a distinction. There are bear encounters and there are bear attacks. So bear encounters are actually fairly common. I had a bear encounter just earlier this year. Like I was on a little four-wheeler, just driving out near Klutna, and we saw a bear run across the trail and saw him just eating dandelions on the side of the trail. So we stopped and watched him for a little bit. Bear encounter, pretty harmless. No, that really wasn't a whole lot of chances that was going to go sideways. It was just a nice little, well, I'm not going to say nice little black bear. It was a little black bear, not too concerned with that particular type in that particular setting. So bear encounters are fairly common. Bear attacks, though, not very common. Up here in Alaska, you get, on average, about 6 a year. So 6 bear attacks for 6 a year. And we usually, on average, will get about 1 death every year from bears. So considering all of the time that Alaskans spend outside close to these animals and their environment, you would think it would be higher, but no, it's actually pretty low. And it's even lower when you consider that let's see here, I think it's actually about 135,000 bears for the entire state. Now that does obviously include the black bears, the grizzlies, brown bears, kind of a different type of I guess grizzlies are a different type of brown bear, but I digress. The polar bears, all of those put together, that's what you get there, but it does kind of give you an idea just how rare an actual bear attack is. Now, one of the main reasons that bear attacks are actually so rare is we are not actually the main entree for bears. Well, with the exception of polar bears, they will straight up eat your face off if you give them a chance. So I guess the rule of thumb is if you're up in the Arctic and you see a polar bear, probably already too late. That's kind of the advice that I've been given. So try to avoid them if at all possible. But the rest of the bears, usually they're not going to be looking for you for any kind of a meal source. Now, occasionally you just find a bad bear and you find them in a bad mood for whatever reason, and that's where you start getting these bear attacks and these horrific stories. Because even though it's not common to have these bear attacks, they are still scary. Okay, I don't know if you've spent any time reading these bear attack stories, but truly stuff of nightmares. And like I said before, you just don't really appreciate how strong something like that is until it's right there in your face and you've actually kind of seen these animals out in the wild. Another thing that's not really taken into consideration is just how fierce these things are. I actually had my my pastor I guess both of my lead pastors in my church, like they were out bear hunting, and they had like one just charge right at them and had every intention of minusing both of them. And luckily, one of them had a rifle, and he just like hip shot and was able to take it out just right then and there. But one of the statements he said afterwards is, it's like, it's just the tenacity of this animal was just unlike anything I've ever seen. So they are incredibly fierce. You are not going to be able to fight one off, no matter how much you daydream about it. You're not going to be able to box a bear and get it to back up. If you see a bear in the wild and it's coming for you, just know that's probably just going to be an L for you. Another thing about bears is that they are pretty unpredictable. Okay, you just don't know what a bear is going to be like in the wild. I mean, sometimes you can kind of look at the time of year, they're trying to fatten up, or they're towards berries and all that, or they're coming out of hibernation, they're really cranky and hungry. Maybe you can kind of get some predictability there, but even then, you just honestly don't know what mood the bear is going to be in. I mean, we have stories up here in Alaska in these remote areas where father lost track of his daughter for a little bit. I think she was like 6 years old or something like that. She went out to pick berries, and he heard, hey, there's a bear on the loose. And I mean, he's obviously freaking out and gets everyone together. And they go looking and looking and looking and looking. Finally, they find her, and the dad wakes her up, and he's like, hey, honey, are you all right? She's like, oh no, I'm perfectly fine. Why is everyone here? By the way, I have my whole bushel here of like blueberries. And she picks it up and just all gone. And then they notice like all the bear tracks like all the way around like this little girl. And it's like sometimes they're super benign and they just want some berries, and sometimes they're not so benign and they want to eat your face off. You just honestly don't know. It kind of depends on the bear and depends on the day. So unpredictable, fierce as all get out, ridiculously fast, ridiculously powerful, and just staying out of their way is probably the best thing that you want to do if you're trying to be as safe as possible. Now, let's go and take a break real quick. Everyone take just a deep breath real quick. For those of you who've been living up here for a while, I do have a podcast for those of you who are interested in looking for an opportunity to kind of share what you think about Alaska, the goods, the bad, everything in between. If that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me on my website. Link for that is in the description section down below. Just make sure you put podcast in the comment section, so I know that's what we're talking about, and be happy to talk with you a bit and have you as a guest on the show. Also, if you're looking at making the move up here and you'd like to copy my relocation guide, again, make sure you go to the website down below, put relocation guide in the comment section so I know what to send you, and we'll get you taken care of. Make sure you put your phone number in there as well, and I can answer more specific questions that you do have. Okay. Let's go and finish up today's video talking about bears. All right, rest of this video, I'm going to give you a lot of tips and tricks from, rangers I've spoken to and other people who have been around bears quite a bit about how to avoid becoming a headline. So number one is just being situationally aware. We've all heard, don't become between, the mama bear and her cubs. Like, I feel like that's like everyone's like first sentence that they understand is don't come between a bear and its cubs, but also be aware, hey, as the salmon run been really low this year, is this berry season, and we're up on the side of a mountain, and there's a good chance of bears are going to be in the area just doing the same thing we're doing and eating berries. Is this close to hibernation season and the bears are trying to eat as much as they possibly can? Has it been a really dry season and there aren't as many wildlife in this area, and it hasn't been as much of an opportunity for bears to get full in this area as a result of that? So just be situationally aware, not just immediately like where's the bear, but also what kind of year are we in right now? Second tip I would give you is when it is possible, when you're at some high spots, like in your hike or wherever, look around. Take a couple minutes, like just try to look around as best as possible and see if you can see, any signs of bear, like in the meadows around you, or signs of, little black or brown shapes moving around on the mountainsides up ahead. Just take the opportunity whenever you get to some high spot in your hike or whatever it is you're doing, and just kind of espy the area. Make sure that you can see anything from a distance if at all possible. Next thing, and again, this really isn't rocket science, but just be loud. Be as loud as you possibly can. When I'm out there hiking by myself, like I'm definitely just karaokeing it like the entire way through the forest, just trying to make as much noise as I can. And also really try to be loud when, again, you're at that high spot, because the noise is going to travel a whole lot better if you're hiking through an area with a lot of bends like in the trail. You really need to be loud every time like you're coming around that bend. Because I don't know if you've had this effect before, where you've got like a loud, thunderous waterfall and it's around a bend. You cannot really hear it when you're in like just a simple turn of the trail, but as soon as you come around, like it is super loud. And you need to kind of be thinking about that as well, that, hey, I can be really loud right here on this side of the turn in the trail, but unless I'm making that much noise right here, like a bear who is like sitting right here is not going to be able to hear you. So make sure as you're coming around corners, like you're being as loud as possible, and you're being loud up on top of like the high spots as well. And if you do know that there's something loud like a waterfall, also be very cognizant of that. All right, last tip I'm going to give you for trying to avoid bears altogether is bringing a dog with you. Well, I'm going to take that back. Bring a smart dog with you. Some dogs are absolutely the dumbest animals out there, and they are not going to de-escalate the situation at all, and they're just going to create more of a problem. So if you're going to bring a dog with you, bring one that is, has like you could say, don't bring a moron dog with you, I guess is what I'm saying. I think you need to step back and take a good, honest look at your dog and say, okay, is Fido an idiot? Is he going to get us in more trouble than we're already in if we run into a bear? Is he or she going to have the ability to just sense, that there's some bear in the area and is going to give me some indication of what's coming up? Or is my dog a complete and total idiot who's going to be just as surprised as me and is going to make it worse once we get up there? I can't make that call. You know your dog. You make that call for yourself, but preferably bring some kind of dog along with you. Let's say you've done all of the things I've given you and you still run into a bear. So what do you do? Well, number one, stay calm. Like I said, bear encounters are fairly common. Very good chances you're not the first human that this bear has seen in its entire life. So just stay calm as just kind of a baseline. Secondly, know that bluff charges are not particularly uncommon, and these are incredibly scary because you've got this enormous, powerful animal. Even a black bear will mess you up, but just this enormous, powerful animal charging at you. Incredibly scary. Now, I've heard from some people that you can kind of tell if it's a bluff charge or not by a couple of indications here. And I've not had a chance to field test this, so do your own research. But I've been told that if it's a bluff charge, typically the bears that are bluff charging are not really going to be making noise. If it's a real for sure, you need to be worried charge. Well, you need to be worried either way. But if it is a charge and the bear has bad intentions, we'll say that. Usually they've got flattened ears and their lower jaw is going to be jutting out a little bit. Now, is that true or not? That's what my research showed. I've not had a chance to test that or not. Do your own research, but that's one of the big tips I'm hearing. If a bear is charging you and not making noise, chances are it's a bluff charge. Just stand your ground. Obviously, have some kind of protection ready to go, because I don't want to be like 5 feet away from a bear and find out that it's for real. But usually bears, when they charge, they're trying to assert their dominance. They're not really trying to like mess anybody up. Okay, so let's move beyond a bluff charge. Let's just say it was a bluff charge, it backed up a little bit and it's still kind of eyeing you a little bit. What do you do? Well, remain calm and start to slowly back away, not turning your back to the bear, and keeping your bear spray or your firearm ready to go. Okay, but the big thing is remain calm, slowly back up. Do not turn around, do not run, because it's going to chase you. Okay, so now we're backing up and now the bear is out of sight. Okay, does this mean we can just turn around and run? No. Okay, just assume until you are safely back in your car that it's not over yet, because there's a good chance like it's still following from a distance, and you wouldn't think something that big could like follow quietly, but you'd be surprised. So just assume that it's not over until you are far, far, far away. Like I'm going to say at least a couple of miles, preferably like inside of your car. And that's going to be like once I'm in my car is the only time like I'm certain that it's over. All right, now before we move on, I did want to just address one debate kind of goes back and forth with a lot of outdoorsmen, and that is, should you use bear spray or should you use a firearm? This really is kind of a lot of preference is what I see, and I'm not going to definitively tell you this one's better than the other. Me personally, I kind of prefer going with the bear spray first, before using any kind of a firearm. And there's a number of reasons for that. And there are some great reasons for taking a firearm and like using that first. And I get that. Definitely for me, I prefer the bear spray though. And my thought process is this: let's say in a high stretch situation, I'm able to, draw out the firearm like a 9mm, 10mm. Prefer probably something a little bit more caliber than that, honestly. I think it's like a 44, 45, yeah, something like that. But either way, let's say I'm able to get the firearm out. I'm able to get a shot off in this high stress situation with this animal that is moving incredibly fast towards me. And let's say I hit the absolute bullseye and like just take it out on impact. The odds that it's going to just drop, we don't know that that's going to happen. Sometimes they've got so much adrenaline, they will run right through, whatever's in front of it, even though like the lights are out. Okay, so they can still fight through, even though they're not with us anymore. They can still fight through and still mess you up pretty bad. Meanwhile, with bear spray, if you hit that thing full on in the face and the mouth and the eyes, like, it's lights out, okay? They get some bodily reactions that they cannot control, and they're just out for the count, and that's going to buy you plenty of time to get away, because once they do come through, their sense of smell is still not going to be great, and they really rely on that to follow people and track them. So that being incapacitated like that is going to give me a lot more peace of mind, and it's a lot easier to use bear spray in a high stress situation than it is to use a firearm. Now, firearm is still going to give you some element of protection, so I'm not saying don't take it if you're competent and you know how to use it and all that good stuff. I'm just saying understand the different situations in which your firearm or bear spray might be good, and make that decision for yourself. All right, so in conclusion, I know we talked about kind of some scary situations today, but in conclusion, again, bear encounters are pretty common. Bear attacks pretty rare in Alaska. And I would say of like those 6 bear attacks that we were talking about, probably have repeat offenders on there. And so the stats like per bear that your chances are you're going to run into a bad one are probably even lower than what it seems. That being said, though, you do need to be careful. You do need to remember when you're out, especially by yourself, which I do that fairly often, that you're sharing the woods and you just have to kind of use these best practices to make sure that you are prepared. So you have to really make sure you stay alert and you're being as loud as possible, and you've got your bear spray or some kind of firearm with you. And for the love of God, do not think that you are somehow special or unique, or you have this special connection with the bear. It's a wild animal. It's going to eat your face off, okay? Just have that mindset, give it some space, and don't become a headline. Okay, this has been your friend talking about bears in Alaska. Thanks for hanging out with me. We'll see you next time.